Hello, and welcome to the Root of All Podcasts. I'm Miles Newverth.
And I'm Devin Newverth.
So, brother, there's a little something in the air, and I think it might be a chill. And I can't tell if it is the fall cool sweeping in, or if it is spooky Halloween approaching.
It's a little bit of both. Well, actually, as we record this, the high today in North Carolina, where I am, is 97 degrees. So I'm not getting much cool air.
That was us yesterday, but today it's bona fide chilly. I got up and was hanging out, and I had to put on a sweater to do this recording. So we actually have some fall here, which I'm all for.
I can't wait for fall.
I'm fall for it. Haha, put 'em ching.
Great. So I kind of tricked you again, and to try to be, timely and topical.
Yeah.
Because coming out later this month is a new movie, Zombieland 2.
Oh yeah. I had forgotten. I was like, what's happening? I mean, other than just like fall, what's happening?
Halloween's at the end of the month too.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm going to throw my hat over the fence. We should definitely be able to have this episode up in time for Zombieland 2 and long before Halloween.
Zombieland 2 double tap if the Instagram ads are correct.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. What are your so our topic's zombies this week, everyone.
Oh yeah, zombies.
What are your opinion? What are your feelings about Zombieland 2, brother?
I'm excited. I really liked the first one. I watched it recently with our father. And I really liked it.
He loved it, right?
Yeah. I really like it a lot. My only concern is Bill Murray is in the trailer, and
really,
it's seen as the first movie came out in 2009, so this was a decade ago. Spoilers for people who might not have seen Zombieland a decade ago. So stop listening for a second. Bill Murray dies in the first one, so how does that work?
I mean, he could be, and don't quote me on this. I've only seen like Instagram ad snippets. I haven't seen the proper trailer. Mm-hmm. He could be a zombie.
He could. So I just saw something in the trailer where they said something about like zombies have evolved again, to where there might be in this new movie some kind of super zombie.
Yeah.
In which case,
correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't seen it in over a decade. Couldn't the zombies in Zombieland already run, or were they shamblers?
They can kind of run that right away at the beginning of the movie. Actually, one of the first rule of Zombieland, if I remember correctly, is cardio. So you have to be able to outrun the zombies.
That's honestly the one I've been slacking on in my preparations.
I went for a bike ride yesterday.
Nice.
Which I feel like would be a better way to avoid outrun the zombie than on foot.
100%. Bike is easily one of the best zombie vehicles.
You don't have to worry about fuel that way.
Exactly.
So, as some listeners may have gathered, you have some pretty strong opinions about zombies.
Yeah, so you know how some people in high school are huge nerds with no friends?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was one of those. I am saying once when I was required to do a demonstrative speech, I made it on how to survive a zombie apocalypse.
You're ridiculous, brother.
Sorry if I spiked the mic with that laugh. That cackle that I inherited from our mother. A special thanks to our mom for my cackle.
For that laugh. Okay. So I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
So that our listeners will know where you stand vis-a-vis zombies. How would you define a zombie? There's so many different versions of zombies. What is your definition of what qualifies as a zombie?
Generally speaking, I do go by like reanimated corpse of some kind. I think to be a zombie proper, you need to die and be returned as a zombie.
Okay. For me, that's less scary. In my mind, it seems much more realistic that in a world where we're constantly discovering new diseases and ailments, that type of illness zombie where your identity is just kind of obfuscated by an illness that is mutated, and so you're not dead, but you were not in control of your faculties. That is more terrifying for me just because you've got... that feels more realistic, like that could happen.
I guess that does make some sense. My main thought is, I mean, there are funguses that already do this to animals.
There are a lot of things in the animal kingdom, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that alter the brains of animals, but there's not much that actually kills the animal and then makes it do things.
I might settle for if there's a stage in the virus where you go into a coma.
A coma is close enough to death for you?
It might be, for my definition of zombie.
Okay.
Because, like, on the one hand, when I'm thinking of a zombie, I think of the undead or resurrected as a zombie. On the other hand, if there was a real life virus that started making people, like, attempt to eat each other or even just bite to spread the virus, like, I wouldn't not call them zombies. I wouldn't be that nerd, like, on top of, like, obviously, like, in my roof fortress, who's like, actually, guys, these aren't technically zombies, you know, like, that wouldn't be me. I would just jump in with my hockey stick machete tool that I've crafted. And go at it.
Fair enough. My definition may be tainted by the fact that my two favorite zombie movies are Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland.
That's fair.
I prefer a zom-com.
I get that, yeah. Zom-com it's a solid genre. Like, it's just... I love a good genre mashup.
So I have some more questions.
Great, hit me.
You tend to go more traditional, it sounds like. Zombies, are they fast or are they slow?
When back when I was first studying zombies in case of emergency, I got most of my information from the Zombie Survival Guide, which is based on, or which is like, it's almost like an in-world book. Because World War Z came out first, and the Zombie Survival Guide is basically like a guidebook set like in the canon of World War Z.
It's by the same author.
Yes, and the reasoning behind his zombies being slow zombies makes a lot of sense to me. Like, specifically because they do die and are brought back. One, the body would just have less dexterity. And two, something else, a virus of some sort that is controlling the human body, would have more trouble controlling it. So zombies in World War Z have about 10% of the dexterity of the human that they got. So they can move, and that's it. And it's not particularly fast. Part of this is wishful thinking. You at least have a chance. Specifically at the start of it.
Generally, you can run faster than a zombie can shamble.
Don't get me wrong. I'm in New York City. Like, I'm not going to be running. It'll be all about being sneaky, locking myself in, having good pathways to places I can loot, and bringing it back home. Like, I will be traveling rooftop to rooftop. I will be, like, breaking into and looting corner stores, groceries, delis.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. I mean, when? It's not a question of if, it's a matter of time.
Good.
This is the doomsday I prep for. It's the only one I prep for.
Now with items, just everywhere you are all the time, you're like, if the zombie apocalypse happened right now, what would I do in this moment? Yeah. It's because you can't...
clock exits. I don't have the money to, like, have dead drops all around the city. I do have a few, like, safe houses. I have keys to get into, obviously, my apartment, a friend's apartment in case of emergencies, and my and my place of work. I could get into, barricade, and lock myself into any of those 3 locations in the city.
Good.
Which are pretty well placed. Like, if I'm in Brooklyn...
Does your friend know that your case of emergency is a zombie apocalypse?
Listen, I've had to let them into their apartment when they locked their keys out, so I earned those keys. It was not convenient. So,
moving on, I think we got some of that information there. When it comes to zombies, is your preference a scientific, disease-based zombie or a magical necromancy type zombie?
Because most zombie things I've seen have been like... I lean towards science for the same reason I lean towards slow. It's what I've read most of. I would love a really cool, well done, like, zombie survival. Like, if you gave me, like, something like medieval or even like Renaissance or like early, like, gas lamp like time period zombie pieces, I might be really down with a cool magic zombie. The thing is, it's gotta feel like a lot of times when you get something that's zombie that isn't like just set modern, it doesn't feel like a survival movie. It feels like an action movie. And like, so like if you had magic zombies attacking this kingdom and it wasn't just like them riding out to fight them, it was like people like holed up in castles and like having to sneak around at night and that sort of thing. And like how I feel like it could be really cool. It's just we don't have a lot like that out there right now. Most of the best zombie literature is science zombies at this point.
Well, for me, scientific zombies are some kind of a disease or parasite or something like that, and they are, like, spreading themselves. Yeah. So that's how you end up in an apocalypse type situation. Whereas magical zombies, you don't have that spreading apocalypse threat. Once again, for my money, the science is more frightening because there are things closer to that in reality. 2 more questions. These should be faster questions for us, hopefully. Is Jesus a zombie?
Did return from the dead. There's a cannibalistic like thing to it, but he's not eating others. He's trying to spread his
message.
His message. And he does it kind of through cannibalism, because he's like, eat this skin, it is my bread, but swapped it. But the other way around on that one. So like, it's weird. He's like almost a reverse zombie, because he's like, he didn't come up from the dead and start eating people. He came back from the dead and said, start eating me. Huh. And it worked.
Maybe that's why there haven't been zombies yet, because Jesus is the anti-zombie.
Yeah. And then, so like, when the second coming of Christ, the Antichrist is just the anti-zombie. It's just going to be zombies.
So then the second one is another weird one that I just thought for based on definition we could play with a little bit. Is Frankenstein's monster zombie?
See, that's tough because like partially yes, but instead of being a person brought back from the dead, he's multiple people sewn together brought back from the dead. I think so. I kind of want to amend my zombie. I think the dying isn't as important as the spreading. And like you said, some magical zombies don't spread. If I was going to write a magical zombie apocalypse, I would have it spread. It would be like the realm of the dead, like brings back the corpses and like has like the magic that taints those corpses can be spread through like the blood is how I would make like a magic zombie apocalypse. But like I think the spreading of the virus is a really important part, so I don't know that I would count Frankenstein's monster as a zombie, because he could technically make more of himself the same way he was made, but not in a virus-like manner, and it would take a very long time for each one, so he's not going to spread like an unkillable virus.
And he doesn't have the instinct to spread, really. Although,
the original Frankenstein could, like, had speech, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm pretty sure the like, non-talking Frankenstein, like, came a lot later, and at this point we have, like, not Aaron Sorkin, the guy who played Two-Face, whose name escapes me, he played a Frankenstein that was, like, sexy, like, modern day, maybe, like, crime-fighting, sexy Frankenstein. I didn't see the movie. This is based on, like, 2 posters I saw. But, like, he probably could have made himself some more Franken friends. Just not at the speed at which I think... Because I do think of zombies as an apocalypse. If you have 3 zombies, like, did you even have zombies? If 3 zombies pop up in the world and no towns get wiped out, does it make a sound? No.
Good. All right, so that's our little question and answer segment that probably took a lot longer than I thought it would, but that's okay. It's great. So I'll start. I'll get into my podcast now,
right?
Which is how this works, where we both. For those of you who don't know what's going on, this is a podcast in which we recommend podcasts.
Yeah,
because I don't think we've said that yet.
Yeah,
and we're going to do that now. The podcast that I chose this week about zombies is Inquiring Minds. The title of the episode is What Real-Life Zombies Reveal About Our World.
Right.
So I just want to talk about Inquiring Minds in general a little bit before I get into the specific episode. It's hosted by two scientists, Kishore Hari and Indre Viscontas, and I'm very sorry that I butchered both of those names. This particular episode was hosted by Kishore, and he is a scientist and educator, which is a great combination for a podcast, I think, because he will understand the harder science stuff and also has that educator background, so he can spread that information around.
Yeah.
So this particular episode, I'll read the little blurb. We talked to science writer at Wired Magazine, Matt Simon, about his new book, Plight of the Living Dead, What Real-Life Zombies Reveal About Our World and Ourselves.
Awesome.
So it's an interview with Kishore, who I'm sure his name I'm saying wrong, and Matt, who hopefully I'm saying right. And they talk about his new book, which is about zombies in nature. And they don't really define, in the podcast at least, I'm sure he does in his book, but they don't really define what they consider a zombie in nature. Obviously, like I said, in the examples they give here, there's no death component. A lot of how a lot of them evolved is to try to keep the zombified creature alive as long as possible.
Sure.
What I get from the examples they go through is just kind of zombies in nature are anything which could be fungi, bacteria, virus, insects that alters the actions of another creature so that it acts against what its instincts would normally be in order to move along in its life cycle. So
that makes sense.
Lots of things on this planet that have evolved in a way that they need other animals in order to finish their life cycle. There are a lot of creatures that have their actions altered. The famous one is there are fungi that will take over ants, and the ant will get taken over by this fungi, and all of a sudden it will leave the colony and find the tallest blade of grass that it can find, and then it will kind of rain that fungi over the colony. That way it spreads itself.
Wow.
So that, in my mind, that is like definitely on point for what I would consider a zombie. Like, that is freaky. That it literally makes it leave the colony and then damage the colony. That is hardcore against what its instinct should be.
Yeah, that stuff scares me too, because like, especially if it can be airborne zombie viruses terrify me because you can't fight that. I think The Last of Us has fungal based zombies, and their survival, like, on top of just being prepared, also just has a component of not being like a certain number of the population like is immune to the spores, and like I hate that because it's random and I'm not that lucky. So
yeah, that doesn't sound like fun. They talk about a couple of different types of wasps. There's one that I think does qualify. There's another one that I don't know that it does. For my definition, at least. There is one wasp that I don't remember the specific type of wasp or if they mention it. They sting cockroaches in their, like, in the base of their head and sting into their brain. And then their poison is such that it manipulates that cockroach they can manipulate that cockroach to get it back to their nest.
Jeez.
To then have an egg or eggs laid inside of it. And for me, because that wasp is about half the size of a cockroach and would not likely be able to get that cockroach where it needed to go otherwise. So for me, I think that definitely qualifies because you have the cockroach like assisting in its own demise in a way that it shouldn't normally do.
Sure. And that's
which is freaky.
Yeah, it's terrifying. You don't have like the cockroach turning on other cockroaches. I also don't know how their family life is. But
they're all deadbeats.
It doesn't assist in its own, but it does help in the spread of, because it does become like an egg sac.
Yeah.
So that is pretty terrifying. That would be a bad apocalypse.
It wouldn't be great.
Because like if the wasps could sting us at the base of our neck, bring us home and lay eggs in us, one, that'd be a lot of eggs.
Yeah.
And two, like, my hockey stick machete's not gonna do much against a human-sized horde of wasps.
Yeah. For my thing, some of these are parasites for sure. And there definitely are, like, parasite horror movies that are not zombie movies out there. And so, like, I feel like that one's kind of borderline. Yeah. There's another one, the tarantula hawk wasp, which is a badass name.
Yeah, really is.
For any creature. I want, like, that should be a sports team.
Yeah, the tarantula hawk wasps.
I would not want to play hockey against the tarantula hawk wasps.
No, they might have machetes on the end of their hockey sticks.
They could. But so they are bigger than the tarantulas that they are known for taking on. And so they really? Just kind of sting and paralyze a tarantula and then drag it to their nest and then lay eggs in the tarantula. I believe they lay one egg in the tarantula. And for my money, like, that's a parasite and that would be terrifying and awful.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I consider that a zombie.
No, because it's not altering the attacked creature's actions.
Exactly.
And that's scary.
That's my opinion. I'm not a scientist. But also, those scientists are wrong.
Yeah. Just
some more little tidbits that they discuss. Another one that I was on the fence about. So there's a worm. There's a lot of worms that are considered zombifiers. There's a worm that latches onto the foot muscles of clams called cockles and uses that attachment to the muscle to make it difficult to move, and it also stunts their growth so that it's harder for them to move, and then they end up settling on the top of, like, this mud. That way they can be eaten by birds, and then that's where the worm needs to be in order to complete its life cycle. To lay eggs and stuff, or to get to the next part of where it needs to go. And so that's another borderline. That's another one for me because it stops it from being able to do something. It's more of a paralysis thing again for me.
Yeah, it's more like something physically moving. If someone is standing behind me and, like, grabs my arms and makes me punch my friend, they didn't turn me into a zombie. They're just a bully.
Yeah. There are worms that infest crickets who then somehow make the crickets jump into bodies of water, and then the worms explode out of the cricket body into the water and lay their eggs. They mate and lay their eggs there, are eaten by, like, insect larvae, and then they get eaten by more crickets later. So that's like a cycle thing. And so what kind of zombifies it for me is the fact that they take crickets and make them jump into water where the crickets can drown or get eaten by fish, which they don't want to do. The really interesting thing for me about these ones is they're called horsehair worms. And if the fast cricket, if the cricket cooperates and jumps into the water, usually it will survive the worm. They drill, like, a small hole out of their abdomen, and then the cricket, if it survives, if it doesn't drown and doesn't get eaten by fish, they will live and just go about their life. They didn't. The author of the book went into the woods and found some of these horsehair worms in a body of water, and there were no crickets around because, like, there were no bodies of crickets around because a lot of them get away, which is really, like, weird, like that.
Yeah,
it's really weird. They, in laboratory conditions, usually you'll get, like, one worm in a cricket, right? In laboratory conditions, they were able to infect a cricket with up to 30 worms and still have them usually survive.
So it's just like hitching a ride, like,
basically. Well, so it like I said, it gets they get eaten by mosquito larvae or insect larvae, and then those mosquitoes get eaten by crickets, and the mosquito has the horsehair worm inside of it. But it makes and so it's one of those weird things where I don't know how crickets know the jumping in the water is where it needs to go. It's a very strange thing because it needs to jump into the water. And then, like I said, usually it will survive. But if it doesn't jump into the water, then that worm will die inside of it without being able to mate. And the cricket will get infected and die. So, like, cooperating is actually, once it's been infected, cooperating is in the best interest of the cricket, for the most part.
That's true.
Because at least then it has a chance of surviving that. How does a cricket know that?
I don't know. It's gotta be, like, there must be some brain chemistry thing going on there.
There
like,
has
I don't
to be.
know what. Like, the only thing I can think of is, like, if the worm takes in the majority of the moisture and, like, makes the cricket crave water to the point where it will jump into a body of it. But, like, that seems...
That's weird.
Like, a lot. That's the only other thing I can think of. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not a scienceman. I'm not Harold Scienceman.
There are worms that take over fish and make them swim near the surface of water, where they can get picked up by birds. And then, just like the clams I talked about earlier, that is how they propagate. So that's kind of zombie-ish to me. And then they talk about how... They have a few other examples, they talk about a few other things, and then they talk about rabies. And how rabies is kind of the scariest thing for people because rabies evolved in mammals. And so rabies doesn't do all the same things that it does to other mammals to us, but because we have mammal brains, and it was made for mammal brains, rabies can infect people, and it's not a fun time. The weird thing about rabies is that everyone knows that, rabies can make you aggressive and makes animals aggressive as a way to... Like, rabies is kind of what pop culture zombies were based off of. You have animals really aggressive, trying to bite, and foaming at the mouth, and stuff like that. It's kind of is where a lot of the current zombie stuff came.
Especially
today.
Like your rage virus.
Well, so I mean that's where I Am Legend, the book, not the Will Smith vehicle. The book was kind of their zombie vampire weirdness was partially based off of rabies, and then the Night of the Living Dead was actually based off of those, partially based off of I Am Legend.
Really?
Yeah. And so it all comes from rabies. It's not a new thing. Like, that's where zombies, as we think of them today, came from, is rabies. But rabies, the point I was trying to make is that rabies doesn't just make you aggressive. In humans, rabies gives people a severe aversion to water.
Right.
Like to the point where there is documentation of like people being in the hospital and like a nurse like offering them a glass of water, and the person will... It's not just like they're afraid of swimming. Like even the idea of drinking water like makes them recoil.
Interesting. Which is like definitely being made to go against survival instinct.
Exactly. And it's just freaky that like that's a very specific thing.
I don't know what part
to
of
affect
the
your
brain chemical like makes you averted to water. Is it liquid in general? Like ingesting liquid in general, or just water?
I'm not a scientist. I don't know.
Right. Neither of us.
I don't think they offered them I don't think they did an experiment with
what about Coke Zero,
They
sir?
were like, water? Ooh, root beer?
Orange,
ooh, root
orange
beer,
Fanta?
yummy.
Orange Fanta? At what point does a soda become so like chemical based that oh Yoo-hoo? Yes, I will drink that. That is hardly a beverage at all. That's just a laxative at this point. I'm sorry, that got a little blue.
But so from there they go and talk about a little bit. They kind of leave you with like if a disease can do that to your brain, you think of everything you do as like choices that you've made, but like how much of the things you do and the things you think are altered by chemicals and stuff around you. It's a very weird, like, and that's almost the scariest part of the whole thing.
Yep. Is consciousness an illusion? An evolved illusion we have to make ourselves feel important so that we propagate the species? It's terrifying. Especially because we have so many people whose actions are affected by brain chemistry. Like, I would be a totally different human if I didn't have the whatever brain chemical imbalance gives me my attention deficit disorder. And, like, depression affects a huge number of people's lives and actions every day. So, like, yeah, like, we think of ourselves as making decisions because, I mean, we do. Like, Right now I'm choosing not to throw my microphone across the room, mostly because there's no reason for me to. But that is a choice I'm making.
But yeah, it's definitely... We could probably spend an hour talking about that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give the information to contact my podcast, and then we can talk about yours.
Cool.
I've got, like I said, it's Inquiring Minds. Their website is inquiring.show. They're on Twitter at Inquiring Show. And they are Inquiring Minds on YouTube.
Sweet.
So check them out.
All right, let's just jump right into it. This week I listened to The Zombie Chronicles: Escape. And this was interesting to me because a lot of times when I'm trying to pick a podcast, I do try and pick something that's still running. This one is not, but that's because this one is not.
Okay. Is it because the authors got killed by zombies?
No, this one is not still running because it's an audiobook. This person, James Melzer, one of those two pronunciations, wrote a novel called The Zombie Chronicles: Escape, and instead of publishing it an audiobook somewhere else, they did it in 2-chapter segments and posted it as a podcast. So it ended because the book ends at some point, because that's what books do.
They do that. I've heard.
Which I thought was an interesting way to get your story out there. It's read by the author, and it's neat. I only listened to the first 2 chapters, so I will lay out what those are like, because the point of the podcast isn't to pick and choose episodes that you're interested in. It's to listen to this book through. But it is a zombie book. It seems to be post the apocalypse. So these are science zombies, but vague science zombies.
Mm-hmm.
An asteroid passes nearby Earth, leaves a bunch of green stuff in the sky that eventually fades. People are whoa, that was weird. And then people start going crazy. They end up jumping off of buildings and killing themselves. Then they come back and attack. What's weird about these zombies, they don't seem to spread by biting. It's just the people who die via the airborne virus come back and attack people.
Huh.
They can't spread it through bite. But so this happened, and a few months later they seem to have it under control. And we're following a character who holed up for a chunk of time, came out when everything seemed okay. And now the government is running experiments on them.
Oh, yeah?
Our hero is on the outskirts of some city, and 12 times now he's gone to some sort of government facility so they can run tests. How they run tests on people is they take their DNA and grow clones of them, and I guess have the zombies feed the clones to these zombies.
What?
And this person, yeah. For science, I guess, they might go more into it later. But this is what seems to be happening. This guy has gone 12 times, which is more than anyone else according to the people he talks to. He also insists on watching his clones be grown and raised and fed to these zombies.
How does a zombie eating your clone test you for being a zombie?
I don't think it does. It doesn't really. It's just for they're testing. I guess they're testing the zombies' reactions and stuff like that, or seeing if they can find ways to manipulate the zombies, and they just need fresh bodies to do it.
So it sounds like
how they get those bodies is cloning.
Sounds like he's training the zombies to really eating him specifically.
Yeah. What's odd, it seems like this plot, I'm curious where it goes, but basically it starts with him telling you a little bit about the world in the background. Then you see him meeting up with his friend at a coffee shop and is I need to talk to you. I've made a decision. After watching my clone get eaten 12 times, he decides he's going to help the next one escape.
Huh.
Yeah, so I don't know why, how, where. I don't know why they're doing the science stuff. It's all a lot of stuff going on.
Sounds like a lot.
And it's interesting because it's written, the way it's written is kind of pulpy. It's not an old detective novel, but it kind of reads like one. The old pulp fiction detective or Western novels is kind of how the writing style feels.
Okay.
And then you also have the author reading it, which has the plus of he knows the words very well, but he doesn't he's not necessarily a performer. So it's not the best audiobook reading I've ever read, but it was certainly interesting, and I did enjoy the first 2 chapters of it.
Sounds very interesting.
But yeah, it was fascinating because we've been talking about definition of zombies, and these guys miss out on a couple key points for me.
Mm-hmm.
They do have a few other key points, and this is interesting in that it isn't the post-apocalypse zombie. It's averted apocalypse zombie style thing.
Well, because if If zombies, to your point earlier, if zombies did like happen, like if there were human zombies around,
Yeah.
and we were able to contain them or stop that from getting out of hand, if there were the 3 zombies, that those people would be studied. It's not like a horror movie where you would stop those 3 people and like bury them forever and everyone would go on with their lives. Like, those would end up being studied by scientists for sure.
So in the movie, even, I feel like scientists would start studying them just so you could have a sequel.
Well,
but like, yeah, like in small town wherever, upstate New York or something, like, yeah, like the zombies attack this town. The small town sheriff gets a militia together. They kill the zombies and they bury them and never speak of it again.
mm-hmm.
But like in your more world epidemic style thing, yeah, like we would be studying those zombies for sure, 100%. Whereas this sort of thing does make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a chunk of the zombie experience we are not used to reading about.
Mm-hmm.
They do cover it a bit in World War Z, which is fun. Like seeing they don't really end up studying them a whole lot because they're trying to study them as the pandemic hits the world. But like in terms of like launching an offensive and like slowly taking back the world from zombies, the way they do it in World War Z is just choice. So
that's the thing with like if there was a 3 zombie outbreak or whatever. I keep coming back to that, but if the thing is that would be you guarantee they would be studied, but in a lot of these movies, that studying is how an outbreak happens.
Yeah,
because they see that like something about the zombies' traits. They think they could use that to cure a disease. Or they think
this
they could
brings
use
people
that
back from the dead. We can use it to fight cancer cells or something.
Yeah, and then they basically at that point they make the zombie virus like super contagious or super powerful, and then that's where the real apocalypse type event would occur. So what I'm saying is that even in your scenario with 3 zombies, you could still end up with an apocalypse. So I think it does make it sound.
That's fair. Unless small town sheriff kills him and buries him, you know.
Yeah, supernatural style.
Yep. Yeah, so that was mine. Like, there isn't a lot to talk about. Because I was thinking we could talk about like zombie stuff in general, but we did that at the beginning. Like, this is an interesting book. I enjoyed the part of it I read. I'm sure the algorithm will have some suggestions on which of you out there will like it. Do you have any questions about James Melzer and his book?
Has he written any other books that you know of?
No idea.
Great.
Yeah, it's
good talk. Great.
Good talk. All right. Do you have any questions? I probably won't be able to answer them. That's how I should have said that. Yeah, I was just like,
you specifically asked me if I had questions about the author.
Yeah. His name is James Melzer. He wrote a book about zombies.
And that's all Miles, the facts you know about him.
You research fiend. You're so knowledgeable about your topic, Miles. Cool. Do we want to throw this over to the algorithm?
We might as well.
All right. Tap, tap, tap. Keyboard. It looks like the printout's coming out right now. Okay. So the Zombie Chronicles: Escape. It seems to be recommended for like fans of like older Pulp Fiction style books, as well as people who are interested in like the science fiction or science zombie. Especially loved. If you're one of the 8 people in the world, and I know more people in the world have read this book, who read Go-Go Dancers, Go-Go Girls of the Apocalypse, Go-Go Dancers of the Apocalypse, something like that. If you've read and enjoyed that post-apocalyptic Pulp Fiction style book, you will love this one. Yeah, so that seems to be that. What's it saying about your podcast?
Let's see here. It says that Inquiring Minds zombie episode would be recommended for anyone who is interested in insects, anyone who is not eating breakfast, anyone who just it's just great for anyone who wants to know more about science and who likes kind of tying horror films and horror ideas to a real scientific fact.
Cool. That sounds rad. Awesome. Well, thank you guys out there for joining us today.
Thanks so very much.
Thank you, brother, for recording with me this fine morning. Thank you to our mommy and daddy.
Yeah. Thanks to I think you thanked most of the people.
Yeah, thanks to Max Brooks for making me obsessed with zombies when I was a young impressionable youth. Thanks to Aaahh for letting me use my microphone. Thanks to Devin for letting me handle the thank you section of the podcast.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
thanks for letting me handle the you're welcome section of the podcast.
All right, let's get out of here.
Our contact information, we're at Twitter at Root of Pod. We are the root of all pod at gmail.com. We have the Root of All podcasts on YouTube in case you really want to listen to us and stare at our logo.
Yeah.
We have facebook.com/root of pod. If you have listened to any of our episodes and it's made you want to go check out the other podcast that we covered in that episode, let us know. Shout out on Twitter. Email us if you don't want to be public about it. We would love to give you a shout out on the yeah.
Tell them we sent you. They don't know us, but tell them we sent you anyway. They'll give you a deal.
They'll give you a deal on their free podcast.
Yeah.
They'll give you 2 for 1.
Yeah. Just use promo code Root of Pod and all right. So yeah. All right. We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.